Hey, what's going on, Mecha Army? Welcome to the Child of Mecha live stream. I am your host, Tim, the one and only Child of Mecha. Welcome. It is Thursday. We're going to jump back in to this Team SD build. Continue on working with the arm, detailing that a little bit. Then, if time permits, we might move on and start detailing the foot and stuff like that. So, fun times, right? But, hey, first and foremost, look at that, Anaheim Electronics. If you want to rep good old Anaheim, hit up www.childofmecha.com, hit the store button up at the top. You will find this hat, many more, shirts, prints, all sorts of other good stuff. I hear they make great presents, Easter presents, if there's still time. I didn't even realize it was Easter this weekend, so whoops, better late than never, right? Easter Bunny's quarantined too, what can I say? Anyway, if you are interested in any of the tools and materials that we're going to be working with here today, I highly suggest that you hit the Amazon link just below here somewhere on Twitch and YouTube, that side. If you're watching on Facebook, I do get a bit of a commission based off the stuff that you buy, but it does not increase the cost for you, and it goes to help me out, help the stream, and help all of our future endeavors that we're going to be embarking on. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, finely curated by yours truly, tools for modeling and stuff, all the stuff that I use. There's streaming gear if you want to get into that, now's a perfect time. Books for inspiration and some other stuff in there, so go load up on that. And then finally, if you are interested in kits, paints, tools, accessories, what have you, Mecha Decals, sheets 1 and 2, those are both in stock and shipping now. Hit up our good friends right down here in the corner, USA Gundam Store. Adam and the fine folks down there will definitely have what you need. So, without any further ado, that's French, by the way, we're going to jump into it. Let's go camera 2. Here we go. Now, if you remember from yesterday's early stream, we worked on this little bit right here, these fine little details here. Let's get you zoomed in so you can kind of whoop. That didn't do too much, now did it? But we worked on these guys, or on this guy right here. These details. So let's see, we cut this main plate here. We cut this little detail block, perimeter, scribed everything, put some nice big old fat scribes right alongside there. Did a couple notches there and called it a day. So that came out really, really nicely. I think it's a nice little subtle detail, especially at the front of the arm. Yeah, I think that came out really good, if I do say so myself, right? Yes, Alexa is muted at this point, so there we go. Let's check in with the chat and see who is with us here. It looks like all the usual suspects. Alex Andrews, Gumpa Uruguay, hey, written wisely, HRO 148. Yeah, all those guys over there. Andrew Hilton Wig is over there on the Mech Army Facebook group. What's up? What's up, Andrew? Good to see you, buddy. Gamer Bud, whoa. Blast from the past. What's up, Budrick? He's over there on YouTube. He says hello, hello. Robert Cottrell is also over there on the Mecha Army Facebook group. What's going on, Robert? All right, so with that being said, we're going to put the hat off to the side. Get the dust and plastic shards off of the eyes. Woo! That'll wake you up in the morning. All right, here we go. Yeah. All right, so what I think we're going to do today is do just a little bit of work here on the side of this kind of cuff style piece here, right? And for those of you that don't know, that's kind of what this end product, once assembled, will look like, right? Just to kind of, I guess, recap here, we bumped up this little detail here, put in some little circular details there on both sides. You know, just kind of simple stuff thus far, right? Simple stuff. So we're going to add a little bit on both sides of the cuff here and kind of really just kind of go from there, right? So First thing I want to do is just really just something simple, straight off the bat, and that's just kind of a little scribe right around the front edge of the cuff here, right? Just to make things look a little separated, right? So we're going to use our 1mm scribing jig here, and let's see, we're going to grab our 0.15 chisel, and we're going to go to town, and that will be essentially the basis of what we do here detail-wise with this thing, right? This is pretty simple, a pretty simple process, you know. This is just scribing right along the jig, and it's not hard. But once we go to paint and prime and paint this, this whole front section here will become almost, it'll look like it's separated and everything, right? And it'll look really, really nice. So hopefully you can kind of see that. Let's see, where's the shadow? Ooh, yeah, right there. So there you can kind of see how that front part becomes kind of like a separated look, almost like it's a cover that can come off, right? So that's basically what we're going after at this point, right? And basically, once we have this line established, then we can kind of play off that line. So we can add things like notches, we can add different, other different panel lines to this thing, make those look separated and all sorts of stuff. We can add plating and bits and all sorts of other cool, fun stuff that will make this look unique, technical, and just pleasing. Alright. Last little line right here that leads up to the top. Okay, now we just go back, reinforce these lines, and then we can basically move on from there. Like I said, simple process. Okay. Hopefully my head's not in the way, yeah? Okay, so there we go. There, let's see if you guys can see that on camera. There is our basis for what we're about to do, right? That just separates this whole front section here from the rest of the cuff, right? Alex Andrews wants to know, hang on one second. Whoo! What's up with the sneezing today? Hey now. Whew. Hey, Alex has a question. Jesus. He wants to know, does your visor have lights in built in to it, or is it just the magnifying? No, these are just optimizers. These do not have lights or anything. I have 3 articulating desk spotlights above here, so plenty of light on the desk and all that good stuff. So no, these actually are just the lenses themselves. That's it. That's all. That's all I really need, honestly. All right. So from there, now let's start getting a little a little creative. Yeah. Let's start off with 6.3, and let's see. We're gonna draw. Actually, we're gonna sand this down just a bit, just so that the plastic will take the pencil lead a little bit easier when we draw this on. There we go. All right, so now we'll start with 6.3, right? And let's see, we'll come over a little bit like that, right? Just a little. And then let's see, we will take what, 4.8, yeah? And then we'll come off that line just like that. Kind of see what we're doing here, right? Kind of see, yeah? And then this is a 45-degree scribing jig that I made, and what we're gonna end up doing is connecting both of these lines just like that. And there, what you essentially have is a perfect example of the 3-line rule. 3-line rule. So, if you're not familiar with what the 3-line rule is, it's a basic guideline for panel line design, and it was kind of developed by Ifan Cucinato. I can never really either remember or pronounce his name, but Ifan was or is the author of Scratch Build Revolution, the book that pretty much everybody and their brother has at this point. He did the tricked out Gesta, with all of the plating and scribing and all that fun stuff, but he kind of coined the term, and he kind of developed the ideology of it. And essentially what it comes down to is that any 3 lines can make up a really successful panel line design, as long as the angles that are contained within are obtuse, or greater, or at or greater than 90 degrees. Anything that is less than 90 degrees is not optimal for panels or panel line design, aesthetically or functionally. Because you have to think, when these machines are being designed by professional engineers, you have to take in consideration, if the panels come to a sharp point, what happens when that panel is lifted up, and a maintenance person accidentally gets impaled with it? That's not good. That could be lawsuits, insurance claims, all of that fun stuff that you never, ever think about inside of a fictionalized universe like Gundam, right? Never comes up. But anyway, that's one of the big kind of thinking points that the 3-line rule kind of takes into consideration at that point. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what the 3-line rule is. So this here is kind of a perfect example of that, with 2 staggered height lines and a 45-degree line connecting them. It's a very, very simplistic design, very common in terms of you know, Gunpla and everything. So yeah, simple and gets the job done. So this is what we're gonna do. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so with that being said, let's start scribing this bad boy in here. Again, we're going to use our .15 chisel. Yeah, that one right there. And we're going to use our 6.3 millimeter scribing jig like we drew the line out. And we're going to wrap this right around the bevel, so this panel looks like it's completely separated, right? Wrap it right around the piece, wrap it around the back edge here as well, because we want to sell this illusion that this piece is actually several. We want this to look like it's comprised of several different pieces of armor plating, right? All right, so now we're going to take our 45 degree. We're going to take this in here, and we're going to match it up with the very, very end point of our previous line, which is right about there. And we're just connecting those 2 points. There we go, very successful. Okay, last line here, we connect the whole thing together. Okay. Clean the debris out of there. And we'll go over this whole line once or twice with our chisel there. And there we go. We have a successful panel line. Now, let's sand off the graphite here. And that should leave some darker colored panel line or plastic dust in there, so you guys can see essentially what that looks like. There we go. That's our scribe line, right? All right, let's get this cleaned out here. Okay, very good. Very, 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 very good. All right, let's get that super zoom so you can see in really, really good detail what this looks like, okay? Because this, like I said, is an insanely simple design, but it's very effective. There's that. So that's what we're looking at. That's, like I said, a perfect example of the 3-line rule. You've got 2 perfectly horizontal lines, and then you've got 1 line that is at a 45-degree angle. Obviously, greater than, more obtuse than 90 degrees, right? This connects right there into this kind of perimeter line right there, and then this line, see, it wraps all the way around, every edge, even back here on this very, very back edge, right? So let's see what this looks like all together. If I can get the damn thing assembled. There we go. So there is kind of our whole thing, right? Now, what I think we're going to end up doing, or having to do, is do something here on this panel and there on that panel. Maybe just some simplistic, simple designs. Maybe even just a straight line, kind of staggered like that, right? Just to kind of, I don't know, just to sell the idea that those two come together and separate or something like that. I don't know. Just brainstorming, right? Brainstorming. But then what we'll also want to do probably is address this massive blank space right down there, and maybe even do just something little on the inside of this cuff here. But you kind of get see the direction that we're going to end up going, right? So, and I mean, hell, what we could also do, and kind of like what Eris said, is come right off of this point here. Because remember, if you can take advantage of natural corners like that, that's always a good look, right? We can just kind of come straight back like this and just kind of do a kind of a band, you know, all the way around here, kind of connecting those two corner points, right? Kind of like that. We could always do that too. And then that way that would look separate, right? Just an idea. Just brainstorming at this point. Nothing set in stone. Yeah. But anyway, we'll deal with that later. What I want to do is continue on working on this cuff, because even though that's a good look, it's not quite to my standards just yet. It's not. It needs more. It needs just sprinkles of more, right? Just sprinkles. So, let's see here. Let's get caught up with the chat, shall we? Robert Cottrell says, is the master grade models easier to modify than the high grade models? It depends. I'd say yes and no. They're larger, so you can kind of pack a little bit more detail in them. You can work smaller and sell the illusion of scale, I think, a little easier. But especially with the more modern master grades, you have to consider all of the inner workings and stuff like that. So there's pros and cons. High grades, on the other hand, rarely have full inner frames, if any. So lengthening, proportions and limbs and stuff like that is a little bit on the easier side. But again, you have to take in consideration the engineering of high grades. The Bandai loves to clamshell the joints together, in between two pieces. And that's always just kind of a bummer to work with. So pros and cons on both. So, Andrew Hilton Wig over there on the Mech Army Facebook group, he was replying. He says, depends on the kit in my opinion. Some older master grades lend themselves very well to modifying, but new ones like the RX-78 3.0 aren't great. You want something less detailed like a high grade so that it gives you room to work. Yeah, I mean, kind of exactly what I just kind of summarized. So, me and Andrew right there, yeah. Let's see. Alexander says, thank you kindly for answering, Tim, and bless you. Hey, thank you. Try not to sneeze anymore, right? Ranger Chris is over there on YouTube. He says, hey, I'll just what time it was. Just saw what time it was. Yeah. I was a little late with the listing and the thumbnail, so I don't know. I don't even know if you guys got notifications on YouTube or not today. It's just completely slipped my mind. I thought I did it last night, but I did not. So, sorry. Written Wisely says, you mean that the government doesn't allow 15-year-olds to navigate giant mecha? Well, you learn something new every day. I know, right? God, that's why I like freaking, what's it called? Thunderbolt. So much better than the rest of it. So much better. Julius Dembski, Sarge, just filled my first scribe. Oops, with CA glue. Hey, it works. William Wilm says, normally the government requires a form signed by the kid's parents, but exceptions have been made. Right? Vernon Wisely replied, and here I thought we had to take Oz as a serious threat. Bureaucrats. Nice. Oh, man. 89 Atherin, he's over there on YouTube. He says, why not take the white armor off and scribe them together to help the illusion of them coming together even more when they are separated? It's a great idea. We're just not to that point yet. This is just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. We're not going to focus on those until probably later. But no, that's actually a really good idea. Eris385 says scribed panel cover on that big blank part. Yeah, we'll do something. We'll figure it out. Commissar Stanley is over there on YouTube. He says, on the topic of modifications like this, how do you feel about creating battle damage with a soldering iron or a Dremel tool? Any ways you would do it differently or lesser known tricks? Great. Actually, here we go. That constituted as a question, so hey. I would not use a soldering iron. Simply because it's not very realistic. The Dremel can be, if you're using very tiny bits and you're light-handed with it. The Dremel can be a very, very useful tool, especially like a slower RPM little Dremel, kind of like this the Tack Life that we like to use a lot, the little baby Dremel. This would come in very, very handy with a small, like a very, very small, like spherical bit or something like that. But aside from that, man, you don't want to go super, super crazy with the battle damage. Because the thing you have to think about is when something gets damaged like that, to that severity, chances are it's going to be a catastrophic failure of that machinery. And then at that point, either it explodes, or just something bad will happen, right? So you want to be careful of and keep in mind the realism, right? Because that, again, that goes to sell the illusion that these are not necessarily just little robots. These are scaled representations of a possible real thing. Obviously, these are fictional, but you get my point. I digress. You want to think of battle damage in terms of you look at tanks, planes, ships in real life. Look at ships like in World War II especially, because those are the kind of scales that we're talking about in terms of sizing and damage being taken, right? If the side of a ship took a torpedo blast, right? Would it explode outward like what a soldering iron would, right? Think of a soldering iron. It goes in, it melts, and that melted plastic expands outward, right? Above the surface. To where if an impact happened at the side of a ship, that metal would cave inward, right? Realism. Those are the things you have to think about when it comes to battle damage. A Dremel, mind you, you can get some decent, decent looks off of that, but again, you have to be super, super light-handed with it. Dents and dings and stuff like that, like in the corners or something like that. Say, I don't know, like on a forearm or on a shin or a foot or something like that. On like a hard corner, maybe I don't know, maybe the mobile suit was walking around and it accidentally kicked a car or something like that, or ran into a building or something like that. I'm just whatever. You could then theorize that some dents and dings could have occurred into that armor, but then you also have to think that armor is probably going to be very, very thick, probably at least a foot thick. And compared to a building and compared to a car, which has much thinner of an outer skin, who's going to win in that case? So chances of mobile suits taking significant dents and dings and stuff like that are slim at that point when you really, really think about it in realistic terms. Hand-to-hand combat in terms of mobile suits, I would imagine would be somewhat of a rarity. Obviously, you see it in the anime and stuff like that because that's, come on, it's like a kung fu movie, right? At that point, but in realistic, real world combat terms, you have to think of it. How many times are jets honestly getting into dogfights? How many times are tanks getting into it with other tanks at close quarters? How many times are soldiers of opposite sides getting hand to hand and that close together? Probably pretty rarely. So another thing to take into consideration. So usually it's kind of ranged combat, right? So at that point, if anything, you're gonna take a shell probably to the midsection, which again, vital components. The reactor's in there, the whole 9 yards. Catastrophic failure, goodbye. You're done. Or a beam weapon, which chances are, again, you're done. So, just consider all of that in real world terms. So I wouldn't definitely not use a soldering iron. Dremel very, very lightly. But if you are thinking about inflicting especially shell damage, think of that impact and how that would cave inward, right? It wouldn't bloom outward, it would cave in because of the impact of that shell. So, food for thought. Let's see. But good question, though. Very good question. Definitely requires thought process in terms of battle damage. So, yeah. Sam L's over there on YouTube. He says, what's up, Mech Army? What's up, Sam? Terry T, Mr. Gundam Yantham, he's over there. He says, any particular reason to break up the surface with the panel line in the middle as opposed to offset to one side? Asking to learn what is aesthetically pleasing. Honestly, no reason. I just kind of felt like it, honestly. That's literally what this comes down to. I'm playing this one fast and loose, honestly, Terry. I'm just putting stuff on here that I think looks good rather than really thinking it out too much. Now, mind you, on the GBWC build, then yes, I'd probably think it out a lot more. But with this little SD build and it being kind of just like a loosey-goosey type of thing, like I said, I'm just playing it fast and loose. So, Jay Lynch is over there on YouTube. Alex Andrews says, nope, just refresh sub feed and you were live. Hey, there we go. Jay Lynch says, I got 2 packages from USA Gundam Store and Mecha Decals. Yes. But Jay also has a question. Let's load that back up. Boom. We have a question. He says, does top coat go before or after the decals? I don't want to mess them up. Okay, so the trick with all water slide decals, not just Mecha Decals, is a good rule of thumb is to lay down a nice gloss coat before you do any panel lining or decal work, right? So that gloss coat will be your basis for everything. What I like to do personally is do panel lines first. I like to panel line everything, get that done and cleaned, and then, excuse me, lay down decals after that. Because if you happen to have a decal that goes over top of a panel line, you can just quickly lay that down, slice that down the panel line, put a little bit of decal solvent on there so it kind of just sinks down into that panel line and looks a lot more realistic at that point. And then once those are done, I'll usually go back and put a very, very light coat of gloss over kind of the bigger decals and maybe some of the problematic ones. But then after that, then it's your final top coat and you're basically done at that point, at least with what I do. So, but yeah, good question. Alex Andrews says, Tim, did you do that beveling trick to the peg holes on this as well? Like you have? Yeah, I do it actually on every single model that I do, Alex. The internal beveling on the pegs or the peg receivers. I just take a grinding bit and I bevel the inside of that just to make it assembly and disassembly so much easier. And it's a lot better than cutting the pegs at a 45-degree angle. So yes, I do that on every single build that I do, no matter what. William Williams says, that is right, Jay Lynch, before and after, before to protect the paint and after to seal the decals and weathering in. Yeah, pretty much. Terry T also in Unicorn, as soon as the MS gets hit with enemy fire, it explodes pretty much right away. Exactly. So to me, the MS would either look new, scratched / dinged, or sploded. Just splody. Let's see. William says, that is the force of escalation at work. They kill us with guns. We squish them with giant robots. Hey. Brandon5269 is over there on YouTube. What's up, Brandon? He says, I really like well thought out battle damage like on an access panel. That would be a natural weak point and most likely to get damaged. Yeah. Persistent Turtle, Mr. Lucas, he's like, my battle damage technique is I let the kids handle my builds. Jesus. Not sure if that would be in scale, but that's a efficient way of doing it, right? Brandon says, dents and scuff make most sense to me for battle damage. Like you said, armor is thick and hard. That's what she said. It won't get too damaged usually unless it completely fails. Yeah. Zero Kai Nathan's over there on YouTube as well. He says, still waiting for my package for USA Gundam Store. Patience. Soon. Commissar Stanley, as a follow-up to my previous question, considering what was said, this is a question. We have a question. Hey. How would you go about weathering a shield like those carried by GMs or the Thunderbolt suits? Should it also be light? Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, a shield is meant to take damage, right? That's the whole premise of a shield, I guess, right? So at that point, you have to figure that it's probably going to be produced in such a way that certain panels of the shield can be easily replaceable. So what I would say is, yes, kind of do it the same way that you would have that you would damage the mobile suit itself, right? maybe some light denting, some weathering around on the corners, the paint and everything, obviously chipping around the corners and, high wear and tear areas. The shield obviously would be more to absorb bullet fire, shell fire, or whatever you want to call it. So in that case, I would I would expect there to be at least some shell casing damage, dents and stuff like that. For those, what I would do is to imagine how big those shells coming at it are, right? So is it going to be, submachine gun? Is it going to be the big old Gatling or what have you? So those shells are going to be in varying sizes. But being shot at from a single mobile suit, you can probably venture to guess if they're hitting the target and if they're any good, there will be, a spray pattern, so to speak, with the same exact sizing of shell casings, right? So for that, what I would probably do is take a drill bit to whatever size that you think is probably a good one. Just drill bits, obviously in varying sizes. 2mm, 1.5mm, something like that for smaller arms fire. And then just gently make a little indentations around there. And then, you could probably expect maybe some fracturing of the surface of that shield. Much like any sort of bulletproof material in real life, which is meant to absorb that impact damage, right? If you look at like bulletproof glass, it's made of several very thin pieces of transparent material. The outer surfaces are meant to absorb that impact, fracture that out to absorb that. So you could venture to say that the shield could be designed in such a way to do that same thing. So you could very well expect some fracturing around the impact point of those shells. Obviously paint chipping and stuff like that around there, maybe some burn damage, very, very lightly around that impact area. But yeah, that's kind of what I would personally expect, for something like that. So yeah, very, very good. Really, actually, good questions, Commissar. These are well posed. I kind of like these questions, honestly. Excuse me. Yeah, like the Thunderbolt suits and everything, should it also be like, yeah. Terry T says, though, with IBO, the battle tends to be close combat and with physical weapons. Well, yeah. I mean, but that's a completely different universe, though, Terry. So you have to weigh those out, right? I'm more kind of talking about like UC type of thing. So, yeah. But Terry says, so I could see that there could be battle damage that, look with that particular universe. Yeah, no, I would agree. Brandon says, YouTube hates Safari browser right now. I was typing and taking and then realized no one could see it. Again, Chrome for the win. Yeah, dude. Terry T, at the same time, too, if the IBO mobile suits get dinged to a point where it leaves giant holes and dents, it wouldn't be walking. That's true. Commissar Stanley says, or how would beam weapon damage differ visually from physical damage from a modeling perspective? Sure. So beam weaponry, obviously, you do have to, put in a little bit more of an artist rendition, because obviously we don't have anything like that in real life. So you do have to kind of think of it, almost think of it in what would happen in realistic terms. So you've got this beam probably made of plasma or something like that. At extreme temperatures, like like super, super hot temperatures. So you have to think about what that would do in terms of, armor and metals and stuff like that. Obviously, yes, there would be melting damage. There would be scorch marks, burns, things like that. I would imagine some fracturing as well in the outer parts beyond the actual melting and everything. Yeah, I would say there would definitely be melting. But also, what I would think is that since it's such extreme heats, that there would be a lot of vaporizing as well. So not like a ton of melting damage, just a little bit around the edges, but kind of big gaping holes. And honestly, other than your outer limbs and stuff like that, if beam weaponry hit the core of the mobile suit or something like that, I would expect catastrophic failure, no doubt, because those systems would heat up like that, and just explodey. So, yeah, I would think more vaporized. The material would be vaporized, just gone at that high of a temperature. That's just kind of how I think of it, anyways. So, but I do like these questions. Brandon said, did Z officially announce his giveaway yet? I know he mentioned it on Brian's stream. I do not know. William Wim says, I would imagine that beam damage would be smooth and bubbly like lava. In physical rounds, you can Google realistic images on heavy armored machines. Yeah, but I don't know if you're going to reach I don't know if what you're talking about, will reach the temperatures, the theoretical temperatures of beam weaponry, right? Because you got to think, those are just insanely hot. So, yeah. And you have to think that the weapons that emit beam damage are probably so super reinforced, ceramic Gundanium composites or what have you, would just be stupid expensive, so they would only use them to reinforce the output section of the weaponry, I don't know. That's just stupid theoretical shit that I think about in terms of these things. It's fun sometimes. Persistent Turtle says, throw some of those snap caps at the build and clear over the marks. Okay. You lost me there, Lucas. I'm sorry, buddy. Terry T says, deep thoughts by Jack Handy, right? Deep Gundam thoughts. Brandon says, Google tank armor damage will give you great ideas of what real damage looks like on thick armor. Gumpy Uruguay says, beam damage would melt like applying heat to a metal. Yeah, but again, such high temperatures, though. You got to think about that. You almost have to think about a plasma cutter, for like wood or for metal work and stuff like that. It literally vaporizes most of that material, but then does leave a bit of melting, debris on the sides. But as an overall, that is vaporized, gone, out of existence, basically, right? So that's kind of a real world example that I would think of, right? Let's see. Gumpy Uruguay, bullet rounds bend and crack the armor. Yeah, to absorb the impact, right. William Wim says, beam saber damage always makes me go to Star Wars, where Qui-Gon Jinn tries melting the door in the Phantom Menace. Yeah, but that's Star Wars. Charles Dodge over here on YouTube, he says, for beam weapons, look for images of plasma torches. See? On steel. On a small scale, there will be some beading on the outer surfaces, as well as small pilling beads a little bit away from the actual cut. Yeah, but most of that's going to be vaporized, gone. I don't know. Sam says lightsaber type damage is probably what I would picture it as. And then Brandon there, look up plasma cutter does to metal for inspiration on what high heat does to metal for beam saber damage. Exactly. Ranger Chris, not necessarily, since these are designed to go into combat. There is going to be a large degree of redundancy built into subsystems. True to a point. True to a point. Commissar Stanley says, if you had to create beam damage on your own models, where would you locate it, to what extent, and how would you make it as a modeler? Great question. So, excuse me. What I would do is I would probably leave it to the limbs for, and strictly speaking, as an aesthetic modeling type of thing. So what I would do is I would leave it to just as a composition. I would probably have I don't know, a GM with a beam saber in this hand, but then the arm cut off at some point here, and then kind of the arm starting to float away, right? And then what I would do in terms of modeling that is, obviously that would be cut. That you would need the internals kind of to show a little bit. It would be clean, and then form just some a little bit of rim around the armor, maybe with some super glue, maybe a little bit of epoxy putty around there, but just a little hint, just a little bit of that kind of melty, bubbly kind of look. But then maybe just a hint of scorching around that on the paint, maybe some cracking, some fracturing of the armor and stuff like that. But then just for shits and giggles, I would make that cut area, I would paint that like bright white, orange, red, yellows, stuff like that, so it looks like it was like freshly cut, and do that on both sides. I don't know, I think that would look really, really cool, but that's just kind of how I would do it, just off the top of my head. So let's see. Ranger Chris says, also, as others have mentioned, plasma cutters are a good example for the type of reaction you might see. Yeah. Persistent Turtle, those little snap things they put out. Oh, those things. I got you. Maybe not to scale again, but I don't know. Brandon says, great minds think alike, Tim. Hello, eye to eye with you on that. Exactly. Lucas says, they leave little black marks on surfaces from the burnt powder. It's a fun way of doing it, right? Chris Pabs is over here. What's up, Pabby? Charles Dodds says, if you're practiced with using a full Dremel, you could lightly touch the surface with the edge of the sanding bit, letting some of the plastic to just barely melt, then clean up the melted plastic a little. Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but I don't know. If it was me, I'd go full bore and just kind of right through. Terry T says, Google the cover of Hobby Japan April 2019 issue. It was a build of an RX-78 impaling a Zaku with a beam saber. Interesting. So, yeah. These are all fun conversations. I don't know why. It's stupid, but it's fun. All right. Gumbo Uruguay, Mr. Javier says, for beam damage I did on a Zaku 2, I literally drilled a hole in the chest with a drill, then used a soldering iron to melt the plastic around. I mean, yeah, that's one way. I'm still not a fan of the whole soldering iron thing, you guys. I'm just not. I think you can get a lot more realistic effects out of doing it kind of old school rather than taking that particular pathway. But again, there's a lot of different paths to the end of a build. I'm just speaking from my own personal preference. Keep that in mind. Ultimately, it comes down to what you're happy with. So, all right. So, back to work on this thing. Like I said, we are not quite done with this little guy here. Excuse me. What I want to do next here is maybe add... Whoop, I forgot we were in super zoom. Let's get that out. Let's get out of super zoom here, shall we? 1x. Get rid of the box. Bring back the windows, and let's get on the get on with it here, right? All right. So what we can do next is just kind of mess around with some things. Maybe maybe a little notch right there, right? And then maybe what we could do is to, I kind of like this idea that's forming, do something like this, right? Wrap this all the way around to the other side, right? And so then we would get that little detail down there at the bottom, but then we would have this whole section down here, and then we can just maybe do like some verticals here and here, just something like that to break that up, break up the monotony. Yeah, I dig it. Or what we could do is this. Here, check this out. All right, so we've got that there. We could bring that line straight up to here. But then, if we did that, I would probably not add that notch there, right? So let's get on with this. Let's see what we got here, because I like the idea of the bit wrapping around the edge there. Now for that, I think we're going to need probably about 1.5 to 2 millimeters. I'm thinking 1.5 here at this point. So yeah, 1.5 right there will look very, very nice. And then what we'll do is we'll grab the 2 and use that as our flat piece right there. Where'd our chisel go? There it is. All right. So let's first... Okay, so that's going to be right underneath of that. Okay, good, good, good. All right. Focus. There we go. Perfect. Oh. Damn thing. Okay, again, wrap that sucker right around that that little bit there, right? And then what we'll do is we'll get this 1.5 scribed right up to about there. And then we should be able to connect this with our 45 degree. Not very easily, but we'll just freehand this sumbitch because it's not very long. All right, so that should look pretty good there. Yeah, that looks nice. we'll probably have to do a little bit of filling in there with some super glue, because I think I overshot some of those corners a little bit, but that's not a huge deal right this second. So okay, get this whole band scribed around here. Okay, that looks pretty nice. All right, so let's sand this side down here real quick just to see what we've got. And let's clean this out a little bit. And also make sure you wrap this around to the back side here, just to give that illusion of these pieces being separate, right? Yeah, that's not as bad as I thought. I thought I overshot some of these corners a bit, but it doesn't look like I did actually, so hey, happy accidents, right? Yeah. Okay. Get that cleaned out. And yeah, that looks pretty damn nice. Not gonna lie, I like it. All right. All right. So, with that being said, let's do let's get the other side popped in just real quick. Just lightly scribe that in there. That right there. And then, again, we'll eyeball this and we'll connect this. Just right like that. Okay, so now we've got a good basis of where to scribe. Okay, that looks good. And then we will bring in our 2mm here and scribe the horizontal on this side. All right, and now we just need to scribe that diagonal. And we're off to the races, kids. Come on, work with me here. Chisel got caught up there for a second. All right, make sure to wrap your panel lines around. Hint of realism, hint of realism. That's what we like. It doesn't have to be completely realistic, but just, you know, hints of realism, right? Hints of it. All right. So there, we've got a nice little wrapping panel line around there. Let's let's get super zoomed in here so you can kind of see what we got here, because I do like this kind of look here. All right, so here is what that looks like there, right? And I like this little pop, this little almost it's basically like a micro panel on this particular side, but then it just wraps around really nicely to the other side, and then it basically forms another little micro panel on that side, right? But then what we can do, like I had said before, let's see, is this is 4mm? I think that's going to be a little bit too, yeah, it's going to be a little too extreme. We need a 3 point. We need our 3.2. Where's our 3.2? These damn things go missing every once in a while. That's 4. What is this? That's 1. That's 1.5. That's 4.8. Is this 3.2? I think that's 3.2. Let's measure. No, that's 2. Son of a bitch. All right, so that's 1. That's 1.5. That's 2. That's 4. That's 4.8. 6.3. We're missing 3.2. Damn it. That's the one we need, and that's the one we're missing. Ain't that a son of a bitch? All right. Ah. Haha. 3.2. We found it. We found it. All right. So let's see if that. Yeah. See, and that's a little bit too extreme too. All right. All right. Well, let's go and see what 2mm looks like. Shit. Again, a little too extreme. Okay. Let's go 1.5 then. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the one. Let's get a super zoom here. There we go. Pull back the windows. All right, so let's get these 2 verticals in here, and then we can kind of get caught up with the chat here. Flip this on upside down so the jig is under the line. Yeah. See, I think I'm really liking the look of this. I think this is going to work out really nice. Okay. And then we'll come back in here and just quickly reinforce these lines here. Make these just a little deeper than they were before. Clean everything up, and there we go. That's pretty damn good. I'm happy with that. Pretty happy with that. All right, so that's that's 1.5, right? In from each side. Let's do a couple notches on the bottom there, and let's go 3.2 on those. That'll give us a nice amount of space in from each side and in from those 2 panel lines as well, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm getting kind of jazzed by the look of this. This is good. I think this is really a solid solid look here. Yeah. All right. Yep. Money in the bank. Money in the bank. All right. Let's get the panel lines themselves cleared out from all of the debris and everything, and then we'll get super zoomed in, show you what this looks like, and then we'll get caught up with the chat. Cool? Yeah. All right. Let's see. Bada boom, bada bing, and get our box, and let's get that right there. 5x in, and pull the windows back up. There we go. All right, so there's our side, right? Right, and that little micro panel wraps around to, yeah. See, I think that's a nice, just a nice, tidy, expected type of composition, right? Let's get really dead set focused there. But that looks like a damn good looking panel right there, if I do say so myself. Yes, it's just square. There's nothing pizzazzed about that. There's nothing, over the top. But for this underside here, it's kind of expected to look like that, right? It's kind of what you would expect, right? Here's the overall look thus far, right? Yeah. I dig it, my friends. I dig it a whole hell of a lot. All right. Let's get the hell out of super zoom. Let's get rid of that box. Let's bring up the windows again, and let's get caught up with the chat. Let's take that off because getting a little warm there. Let's check in with the Mecha Army Facebook group. Andrew Hilton Wig over there. He says, not a fan of subtractive damage in general, i.e. having to remove material from the plastic. Yeah, kind of me too. And if it's going to be any, it's going to be very, very little, right? I'm not one with big kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of the same way as Andrew. Like, I don't like, limbs being cleaved off and stuff like that, or, big giant gaping holes in the shoulder or something. I'm just not, there's just something about it that I'm just like, would it really happen that way? Probably not. But I digress. Anyway, let's see. Where do we leave off here? Let's see. Where? Oof. Whew, there's a lot to catch up on. Holy shit. Okay. Here we go. Okay, this is where we left off. Brandon says, good burn mark method I saw online is to take a fuse from a firework, or just buy fuse. Take a small piece of it, lay it down where you want, light the fuse. You could do better. You could just with an airbrush. Or with the Tamiya weathering powders. Oh, they're up there. I put them away. Those are great, and they blend beautifully. Terry T says, in that build on the cover, the entry wound is a clean cut. The exit wound looked like an explosion, like you would expect, right? He says, so I guess it all depends on how one would interpret / choose to represent the damage. I mean, that's fair. Brandon says, leaves nice black scorch marks and a little pitting from the high heat. Yeah, but is it then realistic at that point? Honestly, I don't know. Lucas Persistent Turtle says, sit outside on a sunny day with a magnifying glass, burn plastic role play with an ant being people. Wow. Brandon says, hey Lucas, thanks again for those parts. Should be here tomorrow. You're a lifesaver. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Mecha Army looking out for each other. I dig it. Let's see. Ranger Chris says, idea for some general rules of thumb for damage simulation. Kinetic round, small indents with smaller pitting from round breaking up and small scorching in the immediate area. An energy round. This is good stuff, Chris. Small indent with small melting in the immediate area. Beam, sword / axe, melting in immediate area along axis of weapon strike. Explosive blast. Large area of scorching, large area of distortion, i.e. shield being bent inward at point of the blast. Nice. Explosive shrapnel. Large area of scorching, large area of distortion, and numerous areas of pitting. It's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So it's good stuff, Chris. That's good stuff, man. Honestly, you should. I think you should probably put that, post that on Mecha Army. Because I think that would be very useful. Just saying. Be very useful. Let's see. And then also too, there's a lot of people that do some great weathering, like Wilson Alanea. He's part of the Mecha Army, very active. When I'm on, you guys know Win, Mr. Pain Pusher, very good at weathering as well. Those guys could probably also chime in, and man, you could get a whole conversation about realistic battle damage and stuff like that going in the Mech Army Facebook group. Just an idea. And potentially get post like sources of inspiration and stuff like that. Yeah. Hey, food for thought, right? Let's see. Lucas says, no problem, Brandon. Thank you again, Lucas. Glad I could help, he says. William Wim says, Terry T, it truly depends on the modeler and what the story in their head is telling them. Learn everything and apply only the techniques needed at the time. That's true, yeah. Whew. Charles Dodge says, for plasma rounds, look up explosively formed perpetrator IEDs, specifically against tanks. Interesting. Again, a great point of conversation. Let's see. Persistent Turtle Lucas says, Brandon, if I saw your water bottle link earlier, I would have sent some stickers. I'll be working on some this weekend. I'll hit you up on FaceSpace. Nice. Terry T says, one could also say it's Tamino's universe. We're just living in it. Well, I would say there's part of that, yes. Brandon says, Tim, your voice literally makes my youngest stop crying every time she hears you. LOL, it's all those months of hearing her while she was in the belly still. It's crazy she gets so happy when you're on. Aww, that's adorable. Lucas Persistent Turtle says, she's a child of Mecha. Uh-oh, next Jerry Springer. Nice. Charles Dodge, just saw the Figure Painter magazine is making their entire backlog catalog available for free download. Interesting. While it's figure painting, they do cover a lot of modding and diorama building too. Very nice. Lucas says, Brandon, this is why I like night streams. Fall to sleep much better while listening. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Lucas says he's got the old grandpa voice telling the kiddies about the old days building robots. I guess that's fair, right? Charles Dodge says, link to the blog where they have links at Dropbox and Google Drive, though traffic has been high on Dropbox. I can imagine, yeah? Lucas says, Bob Ross, let's put some happy panel lines. Bring out our wonderful micro panels. Good. William Wilms, that's it, a mistake. We will just add some CA glue in that happy little accident. Yep. That's not a mistake. Okay, sorry. Commissar Stanley, he says, if you were to weather black areas when painting with things like scratches and chipping, how would you do that? Would you just apply straight silver like the metal being exposed, and any other additions? So, black is one of those paint choices where you need to be careful, right? Because when you look at something painted black in real life, it actually has varying shades of it's varying shades of gray, right? Look at my shirt, for instance. It is black, but if you were to take said image into, say, Photoshop right now, this area here in the highlight would definitely be a dark gray. This part right up here that's in a dark shadow would probably be closer to black. So with that being said, a piece of machinery, demons, a piece of machinery at that scale would look more like a very, very dark gray than, say, a black, right? So I'm personally of the opinion, never, ever use straight black in model making. Never. Use at most use like a dark gray, like a tire black or something like that. That's just a hint under true black. Now, if you were to go and weather that, then what I would probably do is, figure out what the underlying material is. If it's silver, if it's gray, then whatever, so be it. But then, just on the very, very edges of that exposed metal or material or whatever, do just like a slightly lighter shade of your base color around that, so it kind of gives a hint of highlighting. That's honestly what I would probably do first, right? But again, food for thought. That's just my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of just straight deep black on any sort of model making, because it just doesn't, it comes down to realism, right? The perfect example is, say, look at the stealth bomber and stealth fighter. When you look at them in pictures, yes, we mentally know that they are painted black. We know that as a fact. But you have to take into consideration the light beating down on it and the whole 9 yards. Because, yeah, at nighttime when you can't see it, jet black. That's the point. But we're not building things. We're not making scale models to be shown at night with no lights on, because then what's the point? So at that same topic, if you were to color pick in Photoshop those points of on the surface, trust me, they'd be in shades of gray, not black. Food for thought. But again, Commissar Stanley, great questions today. You're knocking it out of the park, I'm telling you. Alex Andrews says, is it just the one stream today, Tim? Yes, it's Thursday, so only the daytime stream today. Tomorrow we're back with 2. The afternoon episode, and then Mechanism is tomorrow night. So we're going to be cutting up and having fun tomorrow night. So we need it after a long week, I'm going to tell you that. Brandon says, look up hairspray chipping, Commissar. Might give you some ideas. Yeah, or toothpaste chipping. Toothpaste chipping? That's a new one for me. I've never heard of toothpaste chipping before. Hairspray? Sure. Old school. Yeah. But toothpaste? I don't know about that. Never seen it before. Terry T, it's crazy how quickly you did those panel lines. Dude, it goes by super quick when you have the proper jigs and stuff like that. Trust me. That you don't have to. I didn't lay down a single piece of tape for that. Not even a one. So they help. Charles Dodge says, Commissar Stanley, search YouTube for secret weapon miniatures. Justin specializes in weathering metal. Nice. Bro Builder Brian, he's over there. Mike Rinaldi is weathering and chipping. Is a weathering and chipping master. Good one too. Lucas says, darker colors, when they oxidize, they tend to have lighter streaks of, say, chalky gray or white. Exactly. Ranger Chris posted that list. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. The channel, Dave. What's going on, buddy? Back again. I like it. He says NATO black is nice also. Yeah, because it's just a dark gray. I dig those. Charles Dodge says dark gray, green, or blue, depending on the surrounding colors. Then use black in the shadows. Yeah. Julius Dembski, Sarge has a question.
We have a question.
He says, Tim or anyone, once the glue is dry from my scribe mistakes, which grit sandpaper should I use to sand the glue down to the plastic surface? Honestly, Sarge, what I usually do is trim it with a hobby knife first, and then I usually go probably about, 400, 600, something like that to start with, and then progressively up to 8 and then to 1,000, and that's kind of when I stop, and I'll just worry about the rest of the surface when I finish sand it. So that's at least what I would do. Written Wisely says, Mr. Metal Color Dark Iron is great for doing various shades of gray/black. The dark Mr. I like this. I like what is it? I think it's just steel, called steel. In Mr. Color. I think that's what it is. And I really like that because it's a nice dark metallic. I dig it. I also like Tamiya's, what is it? Tamiya's, oh God, what's it called? Gunmetal, I think it is. It's a little lighter, but it's such a nice color. I think it's the gunmetal in the Tamiya line. Those are nice shades. Ranger Chris says, if you're going for realism, very dark gray is the best. For more artistic project, black is fine. Yeah, I agree. Lucas says, Tim's 50 Shades of Gray. Well, hey, if it works, right? 01 Shield recently saw a pic of the SR-77 Blackbird that has been worn down. Would be a great reference for weathering and panel lining blacks/dark grays. Nice. Persistent Turtle says, Bro Builder is on tonight. Yeah, Brian is definitely on tonight. So definitely go check out Brian tonight, you guys. Go subscribe to his channel, Bro Builder. Dude, he's only got 400 something subs? That's crazy. Go follow this guy. Brian's really good. You'll learn some stuff. Trust me. Ranger Chris says, also for a laugh, do an image search for Have Blue to see the 117-inch, or to see the 117 in what was the original planned color scheme. Okay, nice. Scuffles over there on Twitch, he says, just think of a brand new BMW in all black. Looks fantastic right out of the car wash. Later that same day in the spring, horrible with all the pollen, turns dusty white. That's actually a very valid point. Brandon says, believe it was Punished Props on YouTube where I saw toothpaste chipping, used it on the edges of things for longer streaks, and it's a lot easier to clean up. Also used it with a toothpick for small spots. Interesting. Wonder how it scales though, because Punished Props is that neckbeard dude. I forget his name. Makes wonderful prop, weaponry and stuff like that, but I wonder how the toothpaste thing scales though. I don't know. Scuffles over there on Twitch says, I guess you could always just paint your Gundam in pure black and let it get dirty. Maybe. Julia says, thanks. You're welcome, buddy. Gumpy Uruguay, Acrisian steel is a nice dark color, a bit darker than gunmetal. Yeah, and I think it's basically the same color as the normal Mr. Hobby or Mr. Color steel. Let's see. Persistent Turtle says, Brian's my spirit animal. Nice. I thought your spirit animal was a turtle. Anyway. Charles Dodge says, I'm assuming Ranger Chris is talking about the M117 armored personnel carrier. I guess, I don't know. Oh, F117, Ranger Chris says. There you go. Commissar Stanley's over there on YouTube. He says, I am currently planning on kit bashing the GM high grade with the GM3 high grade to make a high performance mobile suit. Any tips or ideas? How would I model additional thrusters? Any things to keep in mind? Whew, there's a lot to unpack on that one, isn't it? Not ever having built the GM or the GM3, I can't offer you much in terms of advice on melding the two. But in terms of additional thrusters, there's a few different ways that you can go, obviously. You can go kind of the vent route, you know, make them look like vents. Or you can go full-on thruster bell. And for that, you know, you can get add-on parts from like Wave or Kotobukiya, Bandai Builder parts, things like that. You could go real creative and kind of think outside the box. I personally like to use inflation needles as little metal thruster bells, right? I'll cut off the majority of the needle and hammer that needle back through into the body, and it just makes a really, really nice presentation. I've done that on several of my builds, most notably the Hummingbird. I did that on Airdrop, and I want to say I did that on the Aussie, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't know if I did or not. But on the two GBWC builds, those are there, yeah. Brian, Mr. Brobuilder says chin beard. Oh, I thought it was neck beard. Whatever. Shows you how much I watched the guy, right? Ranger Chris says Have Blue was the original project name for the F-117. Nice. Dwidget, what's up, man? There are no hobbies and games. He says, woo, I'm back, you addicts. Nice. Persistent Turtle Lucas says, if I already didn't identify as a turtle, of course. There you go. Charles Dodge says, I figured Army, not Air Force. There we go. Rock and roll. Gumpler Ronan, there's Z. Says, hey, Tim. What's going on, Z? Somebody had a question earlier, and I forget who it was, about some contest you were going to announce, Z. Is that like official, or what? What's the deal? I don't know. I'm just relaying information here for you. Let the people know. All right. So while we wait for Z, let's kind of move on, right? I am so very, very much digging the panel lines on this cuff here, but we need to replicate the same panel line design on this side here. So let's just do that just really, really super quick, because obviously this doesn't take too much time here. So let's right there, and then what was it, 4.8 I think we used? Yeah, 4.8 right off of there. And now duplication is always harder than the initial scribing, simply because you want to measure everything out precisely, right? So this is just a little under 2 millimeters on this. So right about there, and then we'll get our 45 and take that off that point, and then there's our line that we'll be scribing, right? So let's start low and then work our way high with this line. Where'd that? There it is. So again, 0.15, And like Terry T said, this is kind of how fast you can scribe these lines with using a panel with panel line jigs, right? And I'm not going to try to race myself or anything, but this particular panel line shouldn't take me but a few minutes here to scribe in. Okay. All right, so we've got the lower horizontal and the diagonal chiseled and almost connected there. Come on now. There she goes. All right, so now we just need the upper horizontal, and then we'll wrap that. Oop, that's the wrong one. And then we'll wrap that around to the other side here. There it is. Just like that. Ugh. Getting a call. Oh, shit. Forgot we were camera one. So I'm sitting here and you guys are just watching me. My bad. Sorry about that, guys. Gumpa Ronan says today about to announce. Oh, come on. Charles, thank you, buddy. $20 super chat. Camera 2! Jesus. I feel bad that's what you had to do to get my attention. My bad. But thank you, Charles. I appreciate that, brother. Really, really appreciate that. Let's see. Brandon says, nice Z, I'll be placing an order soon. Awesome. Z giving out haircuts? What? Let's see. Ronan Gumpa Z, shit. Z says, awesome, Brandon. Twitch says, Tim, I see you rearranged your back, the back wall there. Yeah. I cleaned up the entire studio over the weekend, so yeah. Scubble says, can't see a thing you're doing, right? Alex Andrews says, Tim, you're on cam 1 still. Scubble says, you didn't switch to camera 2. Yeah, well. Gumpa Ronan says, it costs $20 to get camera 2. Jesus Christ. Think about what it'll cost to get to camera 3. Hey. Hey. Yeah, Charles Dodge. Makes you wonder what camera 3 costs, right? There we go. I like it. Sorry about that, boys. I didn't even realize we were not on camera 2. Shit. Oh, but that's funny. That is funny. Yeah, you want to see camera 3? I'll take a page out of Julio Clippin' Nubs playbook here. You're gonna have to subscribe to my OnlyFans and my, whatever. But yeah, that's funny. That's funny. All right, so back to learning models. We just wrapped this around the edge here, so just going to reinforce these lines here. Just like that. Get rid of the debris out of this. Just go over the full line just once there. And now we give it a nice little sanding. Just like that, and there we go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Chisel discipline. You guys know it. You guys love it. And let's go stupid zoom here. All right. So there is the first side that we did, right? There's side 1, and then boom, side 2. Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. So let's get that popped onto the piece here. And then we'll get this on here. Get the hand mocked up there as well, so you can kind of get the full perspective there, right? Actually, I think it's more like that position-wise. I think that's kind of the inside of the wrist there more than anything. But there you go. It's basically those details there on that that cuff. And it looks really good. That looks really, really, really good. There's that little detail piece that we did there yesterday. But yeah, so there's that. No mas, no more. That's it for this particular piece. We're done with that cuff. I think it looks pretty dang good. I think it's pretty dang good. Let's see. Let's get caught up with the chat, shall we? GamerBud says the top of your head has a nice shine to it. Hey. Dwyer says tree fitty for Cam 3, right? Let's see. Where is it? Commissar Stanley says on the Master Grade Justa, is there any seam lines? Actually, not that I can think of. The Justa is a very, very well designed model. So no, I don't. Well, no, I take that back. The weapon, just the top of the right there. The weapon, the rifle is seamed down the middle. So that's the only seam line that you would have to worry about, I think, on the Master Grade Justa. I think every other seam is hidden between two parts, you know, going together and all that. So yeah, the Master Grade Justa is just a wonderful model, and that's why I love it so much. So yeah. Let's see. Brian says Camera 3 is on Tim's OnlyFans. Right. Gumpel Ronan says, LOL, didn't a lot of us become OnlyFans during Mechanism last Friday? Maybe. I'm Bitter Than You over there on YouTube says, hello, does anyone know if it's better to apply water slide decals before or after final top coat? Definitely before your final top coat. We kind of actually touched on this just a little bit earlier, but basically what I like to do is once you've got your painting done, like your base colors and everything, lay down a nice layer of high gloss, right? And then you know, put your panel lines down, you know, your panel lining fluid and everything like that. And then once that's all cleaned and dried, then apply your decals on top of that gloss, because that will lower the chances of those decals silvering, right? Getting air trapped underneath. Then once those are done, then you can apply maybe just a little bit more gloss coat over, you know, the bigger decals, maybe some of the problem areas and stuff like that. But then you're free and clear to kind of do your final top coat after that, be it flat, matte, what have you. So, good question. Gumpler Ronan says before final top coat. Yep. Sam L says, where are you announcing the giveaway at? He says on his Instagram. Yeah, Gumpler Ronan. He says, I'll go live after this. Sam L says, cool, I just followed you. Dwidge says, by the way, Tim, I'm putting an order together. Want me to add anything on there for you? Unfortunately, Dwidget, no. Because the reason why I'm a full-time modeler now is because I got laid off. So unfortunately, I don't have expendable income at this point. So I appreciate the offer, but I'll have to decline at this point. So, but thank you. I'm better than you. Thanks, I appreciate it. Hey, that's what we're here for, right? Let's see. Chris Papp says Tim became a positivity killer on Friday. It was Sweet Tea Tim. That's all. Sweet Tea Tim might make an appearance tomorrow night too. Hey. Chris Papp says, I'll watch your live. It never sends me notifications for your lives. Aww. Let's see, over there on the Mecha Army Facebook group, Robert Cottrell says, hey Tim, I have a master grade Hi-Nu Gundam. I'm thinking of upgrading it, but not sure where to start. Ooh. I really, really like the Master Grade Hi-Nu, or at least the Verka Hi-Nu. The other one is kind of like, it's still a Hi-Nu though. But anyway, man, where to start with the Hi-Nu? I mean, Robert, it really depends on what you want to do with it, right? You could just go the simple detail route. You could go full crazy custom. You could do a lot of things to it. What I would probably do is search up, custom Hi-Nu models that people have already done, get some ideas and stuff like that. Maybe troll around artstation.com. It's a concept artist website, which is just a wonderful wealth of knowledge, inspiration, all that good stuff. I would kind of troll around there just for ideas and stuff and maybe get something going in your head, kind of a pure direction for it, and then you can start to formulate ideas of what you want to do in terms of upgrades and customizations and all that good stuff. That's usually the route that I take when I do pretty much most of my models. I'll look for inspiration first and then get an idea of kind of the end goal, and then it's off to the races after that. So yeah, that would be my best advice. Dwidge says, lack of sugar, Sweet Tea Tim? No, well, for Pabs maybe, yeah. Pabs says, you could say that, no sugar in this particular tea. Yeah, there wasn't much sugar in that tea. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm better than you says, I feel you, man. I was laid off too. I don't know what to do, so I've been building Gunpla to get my mind off of it. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's not much we can do, right? It blows. Because, most states are, in lockdown, like a stay-at-home, shelter-in-place type order. So, there's no place hiring for creatives like me. Those are the first people getting laid off, obviously, So there's really no hope for me getting another job in that field right now. Then there's the concern, like, there are places hiring, like Amazon and distribution centers and delivery places and stuff like that, but then you kind of have to walk that line. You're exposing yourself a little bit more. So what happens if you do happen to get sick, and then you're worse off than you were before collecting unemployment and stuff? So it's a catch-22 at its finest. For me, I'm putting pedal to the metal on this thing, seeing where it goes. So I'm on unemployment as well. That helps. Doesn't make me whole, but it helps. So we'll see. That's all any of us can do right now, right? That's all any of us can do. Let's see. Dwidge says the Verka Hi-Nu is definitely a fun build. Build it myself. Nice. Chris Pabs says, look up Chris Pabs Hi-Nu. Thank me later, fam. Jesus. Dwidget says, ArtStation is Mecha eye candy. Dude, it really, really is. I love that website. Chris Pab says, hell yeah. It'll be cool. I'll let you guys know the color scheme for it this Saturday. Written Wisely says, wish people respected the situation sooner. The best we can do is work on skills. Yeah, yeah. And that, and that's something we kind of said, earlier this week and a little bit last week, was that if you don't come out of this taking advantage of the situation, as long as you're not like essential, and as long as you're not working literally and seriously working from home, if you're just kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs playing Xbox all day or whatever, there's so much more you can be doing with your time. You could be learning a new skill. You could be starting a side hustle. You could be bettering yourself, working out at home and, maybe losing some weight, getting in some shape, doing whatever. There are things that you can definitely do to improve yourself. And if you don't come out of this at the other end in some way improved, then it wasn't a lack of time. It was a lack of discipline. So, yeah, it's just, we're given this opportunity right now, and it's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to kind of have really just free time to better ourselves. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm bettering myself with doing all of this and embarking on all of this, these projects and stuff like that. And like I said, putting pedal to metal, fast tracking all this stuff, and shit, who knows? This may very well be a blessing in disguise. I don't know. I won't know until I at least put some effort into it, right? So, food for thought. Let's see. Dwidget says, remember, Tim, when one door closes, another always opens. That's what I'm hoping, brother. That's what I'm hoping. Like, when I found out I was laid off, I got the call, and I was just, like, freaking shocked and devastated, and I just didn't know what to do, right? And then I just sat there, and I'm like, all right, I can't do this. I can't wallow in self-pity right now. I cannot fucking do this. This is not going to pay bills. This is not going to put food on table. So I'm like, what can I do at this point? So that's when I made the decision. I became a full-time scale modeler. So, yeah. One door closes, one opens. I like it. Ruslam, there's Bill. He says, right at the end. Bill, man, you missed it, dude. You missed it. Brandon says, round is a shape. LOL. Less eating is real. Stress eating is real. I get it. Eric Dayton's over there on YouTube. He says, I used to work for Amazon, Tim, for the seasonal position last year and ended up getting sick. So you're definitely in close quarters there. Exactly. And that's pretty much with anywhere. And even if you're like a delivery person, just delivering stuff to people's homes, you never know. They could be asymptomatic. That's a very real thing, So that's a gamble, and for not much upside, unfortunately. Commissar Stanley over there on YouTube, he says, at the end of the day, plans are just winging it with extra steps. Go big or go home. I'm in the same boat as you guys, but at least I have college to keep me busy besides Gunpla. Well, there you go. You're bettering yourself. You're learning. You're actively learning, and you're actively bettering yourself. And that's kind of what we're talking about. And that's the good that could potentially come out of all this, right? Me, I've got a few courses on Udemy that have been sitting there that work bought for me to learn. I'm probably going to sit down and learn and start to learn those once we kind of get everything else on track, right? Better myself. Shit. One is app development. So who knows? You may very well see a Child of Mecha phone app in, I don't know, a few months. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but hey, I'm going to try. and see what happens, you know? Written Wisely says, I've been customizing non-Gunpla figures. Fun times and makes my collection look better. See, there you go. The channel says, David says, life is on pause. Make the best of it. Exactly. Exactly. Take this opportunity for what it is. Yeah, it's shitty right now, but if you can put a silver lining on it, man, it's just one of those things. I'm Better Than You says, I appreciate the wise words. Hey, you know what? That's Mecha Army. We're here for each other, right? We got to support. Twitch says, it's situations like this that you really get to take a hard look at yourself and choose, would you rather sit down and cry or be the person who tightens your bootstraps and march forward? Exactly. Like I said, wallowing in self-pity doesn't put food on the table. So I kind of made the decision mentally, like, I got to do something. So I'm a full-time scale modeler. You guys get to tune in and watch and interact and everything, and have fun. And hey, we get to build cool giant robots together, right? Hey, win-win as far as I'm concerned. Charles Dodge says, LOL, a whole lot of states are looking for people familiar with COBOL coding. Don't know what that is. Could learn that and help the 17 million unemployment applications get through faster. Well, shit, they're definitely hiring, aren't they? So you never know. Dwidge says, heck yeah, it would be like Anonymous Builder's critique app. Oh, God. I have shades of that, like flashbacks of that that old website. I don't even know if it's still around. Like that one, it was like, am I hot or not? Remember that from like when I was a teenager? Jesus. But from scale models. Is it awesome or not? Fuck out of here. Z says, but I don't have bootstraps, Droidget. Well, I don't know what to tell you then, Z. Bill says, hey, if you are single, then go on FaceTime dates. Never gonna find cheaper first dates. Jesus. Tell me about it. Charles Dodd says, COBOL is coding program that went out of style and outdated over 20 years ago. Oh, yeah, for real. Holy shit, man. Yeah, so because these things are antiquated at best. Maryland just updated their website last night because people were trying to file their weekly web certifications, right, to certify that they're still out of work, and I haven't had luck with that in weeks. So they finally upgraded it and allowed people to go back and enter, you know, the missed weeks and everything. Got on last night at like 3 in the morning. Worked like a charm. So, yeah. It's one of those things, right? Commissar Stanley says, Gunpla Builders Anonymous, the app. Nice. Z says, Gunpla is free app. Nice. Bridget says, you got a shoelace right, works just as good. I don't know. Charles Dodge says, yeah, those don't work for models. Cool mini or not, come on. Does that, and it's pretty toxic unless you have several thousand Instagram followers. Exactly. I probably wouldn't even think of doing something like that. Hot or not, oh my god. Yeah, dude, blast from the past, right? Blast from the past. So, fun times. Alright, kids. Anyway, it's a little past 5. We're going to jump off of here. Let's go camera 1. Say our goodbyes for today, because it's just the one stream today. Boom. Let's get that back on there. A little advertising. Never hurt anybody. So, you guys, look at that. Anaheim Electronics. Nicely embroidered. Available in gray. Available in navy blue. Go check out www.childofmecha.com. Hit the store button up at the top. You will find this hat, many more. You will find shirts and prints of all my models. Very cool stuff. Go load up on that. If you are interested in any of the tools and materials that we might have worked with here today, I highly suggest that you hit up the Amazon link below here on Twitch and YouTube. That side, if you're watching on Facebook, remember, I do get a bit of a commission based off the stuff that you buy, but it does not increase the cost for you. It goes to help me out, help out our endeavors moving forward, and just betters the overall experience for everybody going going through all this stuff, right? So go load up on that stuff as well. And as always, if you're interested in kits, paints, accessories, tools, Mecha Decals sheets 1 and 2, those are both in stock and shipping now. Go hit up our good friends right down here, USA Gundam Store. Adam and the fine folks down there will definitely have what you need. Yeah. And let's see, let's get one last catch up here. Bill says, hot or not, isn't that now called Tinder? Ranger Chris, have a good one, everybody. Alexander's watching you. Doing all this scribing makes me wish I had the stuff to do so. Man, just start with the back end of a hobby knife, dude. Simple stuff. Simple stuff. Julie says, no, already time flies. And then Charles Dodge says, hashtag support Tim's new job. Charles, thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, kids. I will be back here tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. We're going to continue on this thing, and then tomorrow night is Mechanism. So come on by, tune in for that, witness the shenanigans. Sweet Tea Tim might make an appearance. I don't know. But anyway, come on back, and we'll have fun. So until then, I will see you guys later. Be careful out there. Wash your hands and all that good stuff. Bye.